Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. As you can see, I'm getting carried away with the soundboard. But yes, So No One Told You is back. I know we have, it's been a while since our last episode. I think this sound effect sums it up. But yeah, essentially, we've been hard at work working on our different podcasts and expanding our channel. But yes, we are back. We are discussing things that you don't know about a university experience. Now, have you ever been given the wrong advice? Been told to expect one thing and then experience the complete opposite? Well, we're here to address this. Each episode, we're going to bring on a guest speaker from Brunel, whether they're a current student or they're an alumni, to discuss some of the assumptions we had about our university experience or things we were told to expect and how this was different from what we actually went through. But don't worry, we're not going to end it there and leave you in the doom and gloom of uncertainty. Instead, we're going to be offering some personal tips and advice to you on how you can learn from our mistakes and our experiences. But as always, we like to kick things off with an introduction, and I'd like to introduce our guest speaker here today. So, hi, Chrisyl. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm good.
Could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
So I graduated last year from Brunel. And I had studied anthropology and professional development, and I did that for 4 years. And with a lot of hard work and determination, I got a first in my dissertation and my thank you in my dissertation and in my overall grade. And after my undergrad, I started a master's at UCL.
Okay.
And I studied anthropology again, but this time I did a Master of Research. And this 1 year intensive course took me, it was incredible. I got to study something that I genuinely had a deep passion for. I got to go back home to Mauritius and connect with my roots and learn more about my culture and my history. And as a result of this experience, I'm currently writing. I mean, I've just finished my master's. I got a distinction, and I'm currently writing a book chapter based on my research.
Cool.
But yeah.
Oh, thank you. I'm with an expert here, as you've heard. She's doing amazing work.
Thanks.
No. Honestly, you are. We'll dive into all of that very shortly. But yes, this episode, and if I can get the see, I told you. Like, give me a minute with the soundboard. So this episode is all about essentially we're going to be talking about a few things, but the overall theme is going to be about managing your schedule as a university student. Now, whether this is you're in your undergraduate, or whether this is you're currently you're doing your masters, whether you went straight into one after your undergraduate or you've come back to university to do a masters, as I'm sure anyone will agree, assignment schedules is
they are challenging.
And especially with a masters, I always joke about it that when I was doing my final year, we were in the pandemic, still studying from home. Here's me thinking that my masters couldn't be any harder than that. How wrong I was, because my masters came about. It came around. It almost, let's just say, it almost kicked me to the ground. But yes, we're going to be talking about assignment schedules, some tips to manage all of that, and discussing, I guess, both of our personal journeys along the way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, let's start off with the first assumption. Assumption. A bit of the reality of it and a bit of advice to end. And I think the key thing is, I guess to start off is managing your assignments is very easy. It's just everyone says, oh, I've got my diary, I've got my planner, I can just put everything in there and it's just going to magically line up. Now, Chrisyl, was that the case? Was that the case for you?
No.
I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
I struggled with this thing where I would have I would try to organize things really, really, really meticulously. And I would plan every single hour of the day and set myself very unrealistic goals. And when I didn't meet those goals, I would feel incredibly terrible about myself. And then I'd fall into a bit of a self-deprecating pit. And I think when you are managing schedules and when you are trying to organize yourself, I think one of the things that really helps is to be very realistic. It's to actually know your capability. For example, sometimes I would set myself the unrealistic goal of like reading like 3 or 4 different readings, like university readings in like, 4 hours. I don't read that fast. So how on earth was I supposed to do that? I don't know. And I felt quite pressured because sort of a lot of my other course mates could skim read so easily, but I don't grasp information like that. If I am to read, I need to take notes at the same time. I need to, I can't skim read. I don't take anything in. I'm very much so like, what's the word? A kinetic learner.
Yeah.
Like it involves energy. I need to be doing something. I need to be proactive in order for me to grasp stuff. So, what I'd set myself goals of like 4 readings in 4 hours, that turned to maybe 1.5. And I'd still give myself a pat on the back for doing that. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that really helped me.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And yeah, I definitely agree. Because I had a conversation with someone before, and like one of the things that we sort of both agreed on is when it comes to to-do lists, I am one of the worst people. Not because I can't do it, I can write a to-do list, but I think like you said, especially when it comes to like assignments or like, readings or anything to sort of prepare, like to help you with uni, you're just like, cool, so I'm gonna like do like, you write like everything you have to do, and then, and you're just like, you don't even have, like, let's be honest, if you're sleeping 8 hours, you don't have 24 hours to complete all this stuff that you're doing.
No.
So you've got this whole list and you're just like, okay, cool, I need to do this, and it's just like I think like you said that there's the reality of it is yes, managing assignments is not easy, but the advice would be what I told the person was, what I'm trying to do more is just write, even if I write like this is all the stuff I need to do, look at that list and then think about what can I actually do today.
So really, that really, really, really helped me. I think if you look at the entire list, it's like if you look at a marathon. If you think about the 10 miles that you have to run, the task itself is very overwhelming and it doesn't feel like something you can do. But if you focus on each step as you continue the momentum and you continue the pace, you'll find yourself having already like ran it without even really thinking about it, 100%. And I think, that's especially with like dissertations and things like that, with those bigger pieces of work that just feel so impossible. I think taking it as like a day at a time, like when I was writing my dissertation for both undergrad and postgrad, I set myself the goal of 200-300 words a day, which is not a lot. It's not a lot, but once I did that, I was like, okay, no. Closing the book, closing the laptop, I'm going to go chill. And if then I felt like I could go on, or if I had like kind of like an impulsive, like I've got to do more, then I would lean into that. But if not, the 200 words is good enough. And it gave me a lot of clarity and it gave me a lot of peace when I was writing. So it wasn't as overwhelming. And like, I chip at it. Yeah. And that goes the same for like these smaller assignments for your modules. It's like I recognized very early on that I don't cope very well with immense pressure last minute. So as soon as I found out that I had an assignment to do, I'd start thinking about it as soon as I found out about it. So I would just brainstorm random ideas or just have the assignment in the back of my head and chew at it as I'm going to my lectures. What sort of things do I want to talk about, and how can I incorporate that with the lectures that I'm going to and the things that I'm interested in and the readings and stuff. And I guess that made it a lot more easier because it made it enjoyable. First of all, it wasn't something that I was going to just like bang out last minute, but also it made, it made it enjoyable and less daunting, I'd say. No,
I definitely agree. I think there's just like that, when you've got that, like, when you're slowly chipping at it each day. Like you said, like it's not like, and we will be discussing doing assignments last minute. So don't worry. If you do assignments last minute and you're looking for advice, it's coming. But yeah, I think, like you said, like when you're doing it like bit by bit, when it does come to like the crunch time, you're a lot less stressed and a lot more like at peace, because you're like, oh, okay, cool. Like, I've done most of it. I just need to like edit the small bits.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely, people will say, because funnily enough, at the time of recording, dissertation season is upon us. So if you're an undergraduate, this is very useful to you. And if you're a master's student, this will be useful to you when you start writing yours. But it is, I think definitely it's so true that when it comes to your dissertation as well, just like slowly chipping at it, because I think especially for a lot of, well, at least for my undergraduate course, the dissertation deadline was all the way in, I think, either March or April. So when you get that in September, you're just like, that's ages away. I don't need to think about it.
Yeah.
I'm just funnily enough, I say this, I didn't necessarily do this completely, but like, you're just like, it's ages away. I've got other assignments that are coming up. Let me just focus on these. Don't need to necessarily worry about it. But then what you'll find is, and again, it sort of links to assignments, because having a good supervisor helps, which is, again, we're going to talk about it later. But like, I think the good thing that I liked about my supervisor was because my supervisor was only supervising myself and someone else. She was just like, okay, cool. So we're going to schedule time. I think it was either once or twice a term, where it was like you had to do a presentation on what you've done, and like what your project is and what you've done so far. So like my course, I should also bear, I'm not saying like every course will be able to do this. My course was very small. When I did my undergraduate, there were literally 4 of us. So
that is a very small
so like literally 2 people were with one supervisor and 2 of us were with another. So literally when it came to, like, I knew the person that was also had the same supervisor as me and was working with my supervisor. So when we were presenting our ideas, like, we both knew a bit about each other's projects, but our supervisor was just like, no, just like act like they've got no clue. Tell them like what your project is, why you picked it, where you're at so far, and if you've got any examples of what, like, your data and all of this stuff, show it to us. And I liked that because it was sort of like you were saying, it's like a bit of a reminder that, oh yeah, you've got to do something for your dissertation. Like, yes, you've got all these like other assignments due, and yes, they still count towards your grade, but you've got to remember your dissertation is still in the works. And I know for some people, they don't have that kind of luxury because your dissertation may be due in like December or like January, or you need to have a first draft at least by December. But I think especially when it's later on, there is that tendency to be like, oh, I'll do it during the Christmas holidays.
Literally to forget about it and stress about it later. But I don't think that's wise. There are some people though that can really do work very well under pressure, and I think the thing that like as a student you need to tap into is really knowing yourself, how you work, what kind of like how you work. Because for me, I don't work well under pressure, and for me it really did help to chip at it each day. I struggle with anxiety, and the idea of a deadline, or the idea of like this like looming task that I have to do, it's like it was quite hard to deal with. But for me, chipping at it each day worked very well. However, I have some course mates and some friends and some people that I know that can really do it very last minute and do it very well. So I think it is a case of really knowing yourself. And that's the whole purpose of doing a degree in the first place. Exactly. Like, not the entire purpose, but one of the key aspects of it. You learn a lot about yourself if you do self-reflect, if you are willing to engage with yourself in that way. Yeah,
100%. We're going to go on to, and if I hopefully, I've got it right this time. We're going to go on to the next one, which I think is very important because we've mentioned it before, which is this idea, I think, when it comes to your assignments, is people have this tendency to just be like, okay, cool. I'm just going to like come at an assignment when it's there. So like when the lecturer says, okay, start of the term, just to let you know, you're going to have assignment week 16, this week, just leave it like that. Now, it sort of links, because I guess there's not really a long explanation, because I think certain courses do it and certain don't. So I will sort of like, we will discuss it, but I think one thing I'd like to mention is one thing I liked at my undergraduate did was it did have that focus of like in the first lesson of each year, you had like this is where these are all the deadlines you're going to approximately have. Which to me I liked because it showed especially like, okay, I'm coming back from Christmas. I've got like these 2 assignments or I've got these 2 exams. So I could plan out my time. And even especially because we will also get onto it later because there are, I think, sometimes people forget there are different types of assignments. So I'm not even talking about like whether it's like a written one or a typed one. I'm also talking about, because we sort of discussed it before, you've also been on trips with your course, which is really cool. I can say, we had like 1 cool trip. We went on 2, but the cool one was going to Tenerife.
Nice.
Yeah,
yeah. That's really cool.
It was an experience. There's definitely a story to be said with it, which we can get into. But yeah, I think one key thing is that people sort of feel like when they get that's just like, push that to the side, focus on what's coming up in the next few weeks. I guess the first question would be, did your course give you like a breakdown, even if it wasn't every year, just a breakdown at your time with both of your universities, give you a breakdown of, okay, these are the assignments that are going to be in this week. And did they let you know about like the credit weighting, how this is going to reflect on your final grade type thing? Or was it just like, here's the assignment, here's the brief, read it, and then when the next assignment's coming up, we'll let you know?
I think it does depend on the lecturer. But I think for the most part, I did get the breakdown and like the due dates and what the assignment entailed. But yeah, it does depend because some lecturers aren't as organised. But yeah, for the most part, most of my lecturers were. But yeah. No, I think that's really good because I think, like I was saying before, like especially because I think the one that obviously like summer holidays for everyone. In general, but especially if you're a uni student, you want to get that stuff booked in advance. And that definitely is the worst thing of like, you don't know, like you might be like, oh, cool, like May should be cool. My exams should hopefully be towards the earlier start of May. And I know friends that like, they've been on their course and they've been like, sorry, your exam's like later on in the month because like things had to be rearranged. So they were just like, I was going to go on holiday. I was going to go back home. I was going to do this, going to do that. And they were just like, well, unfortunately, and I think for a lot of people when COVID happened, and like obviously like a lot of the exams moved online. People were just like, that's okay because technically I'm not encouraging this, and obviously now that exams are more in person, you can't really do this. But I think people before were just like, well, if I go back, like if I've left campus and I go back home, it's not really an issue because I can just do it from my house as long as I've got good Wi-Fi, as long as I'm awake at whatever time the exam's supposed to be, then it's all good. But yeah, I guess my piece of advice would be if your lecturer does give you like a breakdown of the year, definitely make sure that you take a note, whether you add it to your calendar, whether you like sign up, like you just like keep a note of it somewhere so you can always remember that, okay, within like weeks 12 to 13, like there will be at least 2 assignments. So you can then sort of like plan out what you're doing. But also knowing like the credit breakdown for each, again, I'm not saying like if it's lower credits, don't care. Obviously, like every assignment is important. But it also helps you to reflect, I guess like how much time you need to give to it sometimes because I think, as we mentioned before, sometimes people feel like, oh yes, the dissertation's the big thing. So, I can forget the smaller assignments and just focus on my dissertation. Whereas actually you'll find that if you do well, obviously you should aim to do well in everything. But people sometimes feel like, oh, like I can just, if I've got like, I don't know. So I think even with my course, they pushed the dissertation deadline for my undergraduate forward, I think. So yeah, they pushed it. So originally, that stressed me out.
Yeah, it was the absolute worst because I think we had another bit of coursework. I think due either like the week before or 2 weeks before, and then obviously we had the dissertation. So for the other coursework, we were just like, okay, but we haven't really like this. When we got into the second term, so around January, we were just like, okay, cool, we're working towards it. And then our lecturer just sent a message saying, oh yeah, due to like scheduling stuff, we're going to have to bring it forward. And then I know as a course, we were just like, well, but the thing is, like, we've already got another piece of coursework. We haven't really been given information about it, so we don't know how much time we're going to have to spend on it. And people were just like, could you just let us know, like, if it's possible, could we move it back to its original date? if not, could we move the other one? And they were just like, no, it can't work because we won't get it graded in time, so you won't then graduate on time and all of this and all of that. So I think for me, having that schedule works, and also keeping up to date with that schedule works, because then you're just like, okay, like I've already started to work on my dissertation deadline. I know it's supposed to be due the end of March. It's now been moved to the middle of March. I've got another bit of coursework that's like due around the same time. I can, if my dissertation is like due a week or 2 weeks after that coursework is due, then I can say, you know, I'll leave my dissertation where it is for the time being. I know it's mostly done. I'm happy with where it's at. And then I'm going to go back to it and work on it, which I think a lot of people feel like they can't do. And especially if you don't have it planned, you'll just be doing one of those two will suffer, either the dissertation or the other bit of coursework. But yeah, I would say, my piece of advice would just be like, keep on top of your scheduling. Just always like, if you can't get a breakdown immediately, then just like ask throughout the year if you can just, at least from your module leaders, like know what's happening. But to be honest, most of the time, lecturers have to do it anyways, because they've got to figure out when they're going to mark stuff and ensure that it's ready for graduation, or for the general, like if you're not graduating, just make sure that everything's ready for the time of like you go into the next year. But yeah, one other thing I want to add to this, because it kind of links to the next thing, but with assignments, obviously, if you're like me and you want to extend your time in university as long as possible, you might end up doing a placement. And if you do a placement, I think also people tend to forget the placement scheduling for both postgraduate and undergraduate is slightly a bit different. So as an undergraduate, I'm speaking from my perspective as a Brunel student, it might be different at your university if you're not from Brunel. But as a Brunel student, I'm not sure if you know, but for undergraduate, your placement, if you do it, so you can do 2 summer placements or a year placement. And again, we've done an episode of placements, definitely check it out. If you do a summer placement or 2 summers, you don't, I think that's a lie. You know, I think that's a lie. That is wrong. I don't remember, I never did a summer one, so I can't be accurate on it. But I think the way it works is you do the 2, so you do one in your first year, in that summer you do a placement, then you have to do a report of what you did, and then the following summer it's it's the same thing, 3 months, and then you have to do a report on what you did for those 2 summers. If you do a year-long placement, at the end of that placement, you have to do a report and a presentation. So for both of them, you still do your presentation and a report, but when it's due, it's different. Now, depending on your course size, your deadline differs as well, because I know for my course, when I was doing it, my report was due, I think, maybe 2 weeks into like my final year. And then I had to do a presentation. Thankfully, we were still in lockdown, so it had to be online. But I mean, I don't mind presentations, but like, I was just like, it's the worst thing when people don't ask you questions. So I was like, happy to do it online. But yeah, just trying to do presentations at home with your family is yeah. It's I literally had to tell everyone like don't come in, don't ask questions, please don't like exhaust the Wi-Fi. I need good internet connection. But yeah, no, a lot of people sometimes forget like, and with sort of linking to the thing of doing things last minute, which I think would be a nice thing to transition into. A lot of people leave their placement report until the very end. Which isn't good. And I think before going into, I've got it right, the next sort of like assumption, reality and advice on like doing assignment slate, I think one key thing is, which funnily enough is I guess we're starting with the advice this time, is someone told me when you're doing your placement report, just write up what you do for your placement. Now if you're doing a summer one, I would advise, because it's that short, like it's only, I know 3 months might seem like a long time, but generally it will go very quickly. I would say just do a daily write-up in a notepad of like what you've done each day, because that's what I did when I did a summer one. I didn't have to write a report about it, but I didn't know for sure, so I was like, let me just write up, this is what I did each day, because it's good to like have those notes with you. If you do a year-long placement, my advice would be a bit different, because it's that long. You will do like number of different things, so you might find that like, because you're there longer, you're not necessarily like given a lot of like important like big pieces of work that you can then present and discuss and say like, oh my gosh, I did this. So for me, what I did instead was anytime there was something big or something like, you know, that would be good to, put in the report to, sort of like show off I did this. I would make sure that I'm actively like writing down specific, like I'm saying, oh, I did this. Like if I led a team at this event, this is what the event was, this is what we did, get some photos, include in the report. So I was told, always make sure you just write down what you do so you can then like look back. And it's also good when you're like going through the placement report, like getting ready for it, because when you're on placement, you usually will get asked by like whether it's your buddy or your manager, like, what do you want to get out of it? And essentially, when your placement report gets marked, that's what they're looking for. Like your placement, your lecturer who like marks the module wants to see that you've somehow developed. Now, if like me, you decide to do a placement completely unrelated to your degree, then you need to even like highlight that a bit more, because people will say, okay, it's great that you like, I don't know, like for me, I did, obviously I studied environmental science for my undergraduate. My placement was within Brunel's STEM team doing outreach with the young children, just discussing like the importance of STEM and how they can get involved in STEM and the different aspects of STEM, which yes, it links because environmental science and STEM and sciences and all of that. But a lot of people who study environmental science usually go to like work with environmental organizations or charities and things like that. So for me, I was just like, okay, I need to show how I've developed professionally within that. I would say like when you're writing up that bits of advice, that can help. But yeah, that long tangent done. Well, I guess doing assignments late. I can say not all of them. I'd say most of them were done on time, but there were ones where crunch time was had to happen and assignments had to get done. Was this the same for you, Chrissy?
I don't think so, because like I said, very early on, I really realised that I could not cope very well under pressure. And the other thing is that I had quite a few jobs alongside my university experience, because I wanted money and I wanted to travel and I wanted to do so many things. So I was working alongside, and if I had left it last minute, I wouldn't have coped with the part-time jobs that I had, and yeah. But to go back to the placement topic, you mentioned something really interesting, which is like making a note each day about what you did and like your experiences and that sort of thing. And it's interesting because that was what I had to do for my anthropology placement. So in Brunel, you can, when you study anthropology, studying anthropology at Brunel is the only place in the UK that you can do a placement year. The only place, and it's a very, very good opportunity. You can get those opportunities at sort of like research opportunities at master's levels in lots of universities, but for undergrad, Brunel is the only uni that offers a placement year, which means that you can effectively do anything anthropologically. So, and I didn't actually apply to do the placement year, but it was a very last minute decision after thinking about the prospects of traveling. So in anthropology, you can study anything really anthropologically. That's the beauty of it. And me and my course mate, I said to her like really randomly, like, do you want to just do the placement together? And she was like, no, like, how are we going to do it? Like, is this going to be possible? And I was like, yeah, let's just go somewhere around, like let's just pick a country. Let's go. Let's do some anthropology. And we were just talking, and she was talking about some kind of like Mexican food, and I was like, should we go to Mexico? And like that, we told the course coordinator, I don't know the name. Yeah, the person who does all the cool stuff, that we wanted to transition degrees. We booked our flights to Mexico. And what we decided to study was hostels. Sure. So hostel environments, working in a hostel, kind of just, like the hostel world. Sure. And so we both did it together. We started off at one hostel. For 1 month, we lived there. We were volunteering at the hostel. We got to know all the hostel dynamics, and then we kind of went to 2 other hostels in Mexico.
Mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, and start your journey today.
Yeah, and we went to 2 other hostels and we stayed there and we volunteered there, met some incredible people, had the most incredible memories. It felt like magic. It really did feel like magic. And this was just before the pandemic. So my mental health when I got back, my gosh, let's talk about that. Because I was literally in like a fantasy, like traveling with your best friend and it was part of our degree, you know, like I got credit for it, you know, like so yeah, to go back to what I was saying, in ethnography, you have to, there are very many ethnographic research methods that you can take, but one of them, the more classic one, is writing field notes. So you write about your experiences. You have a notebook. Or you can dictate, or you can take photographs, or you can record with people's permission. Of course, you can record things and stuff like that. But I was taking a lot of notes and writing up about my experience. Essentially, being a traveler, a tourist in Mexico, and it was interesting.
Okay.
And then when I got back from placement, I wrote up my placement report based on that. I wrote it about the anthropology of tourism from the perspective of a tourist, which was it was good. And my friend wrote about the anthropology of food, because we did a lot of eating in Mexico. Gosh, we ate so much. And the food is incredible. Yeah. Like the tacos, the quesadillas, the chilaquiles. I'd go back just for the food. But really incredible experience. And I guess that's, this ties into something else that I wanted to talk about, but I guess what people don't really tell you about when you choose your degree is that they always kind of more so say to you, pick something that's going to land you a really good career, or pick something that's going to get you a job as soon as you graduate, or pick something that is, like they give you these very set criteria of how to achieve. And then when you actually finish that degree, you realize that it's not that easy. I've got lots of friends that studied engineering, and once they finish their degrees, because it's such a demanding market, it's very hard to get a job. And it's not just that, it's like more and more we're seeing the job market kind of changing now. Yes. It's like employers don't just want people that tick the box of one degree and that's it. You need to have more to you as a person. You need to have other ways to be innovative, to like other ways of thinking, other ways of doing things. And this is where subjects like anthropology, the social sciences, the arts, this is where they come into play, and it's changing. It's really changing. So I guess I was given a lot of advice by people in my community when I was choosing my undergrad degree, and all of them were telling me, choose something like, again, I'm not discrediting any of these degrees, but it's just, I really think if you want to do something like medicine, you should have a passion for studying medicine. Otherwise, you will not enjoy it. Yep. If you want to study something like engineering or law, you need to be passionate about engineering and law. Otherwise, you will not enjoy it. And when you don't enjoy something, you tend not to do very good at it.
Yes.
So I picked anthropology because I liked traveling. I liked culture. I liked learning languages. I was interested about people. I'm a very curious person. I ask too many questions. And I thought about that and where my heart was. And that's why I chose anthropology. And for that reason, I had the most incredible uni experience. You know, for my undergrad, I spent 3 months in Mexico. For my postgrad, I was 2 months in Mauritius. You know, like that desire, that want to travel and see the world, that's what I followed. And that's what took me to the places that I wanted to be in. So I think, like, I guess to sum up, what nobody really tells you is they don't really tell you to follow your heart or to follow your passions. They tell you you need to make money. But there is not just one way to make money. And there is not one way to live your life. And there is not one way to do things. And we're seeing this more and more, you know?
100%. Because I know that even like, I guess outside of just like the university perspective, like there are graduates, like you said, that like they work in a company or they work at certain jobs. And I'm like, I know there are people that I know, and they're just like doing the same thing. They're just like, I want to change jobs. I want to work for this other company because they're hiring a lot of people. I'm just like, but what do you want to do there? Because literally, as you said, like, I always say that my dad, I've always said my dad and my whole family in general have very good quotes that I like to quote them for. They will probably at some point start charging me for them. But what I do say is that my dad said, like when it comes to my degree, that he said even from like when I was doing my GCSEs and A levels, he said like whatever you pick, you have to enjoy it, because he said if you don't enjoy it, when it gets tough, you're gonna hate it, and you're not gonna want to be motivated to study. Even like I guess taking it outside of your like educational thing, whether it's work, whether it's like with like you want to start a business, whether it's passion, whatever, it's the exact same thing. If you don't really like what you're doing, you will then essentially just turn around and be like, I'm good, or like you'll just be like drifting along, and you'll just be like, yeah, we'll see where things go, but you won't actually have any passion or any enjoyment about what you're doing, because you'll realize actually like I don't like what I do. I don't like doing it.
And I find with education itself, like the whole process of learning is such a beautiful thing, like enriching your mind, learning more things about yourself, about the world, about how you perceive things. Just like learning itself is such a beautiful thing. And yet I think when you get fixated on trying to achieve certain goals or careers that, you know, you don't even want to do, but you just feel like you have to do, it takes the joy out of it, you know? 100%. I really looked forward to every single lecture. Very rarely did I miss a lecture. Like when it came to my assignments, I was so excited to read about the stuff. I was so excited to write. And whenever I tell my course mates, like, I'm so excited to write this essay, they're like, how can you be enjoying uni so much? And it's like, because I'm genuinely doing something where my heart is. Like there's nothing I think more beautiful.
No, I definitely agree. There's like, and I think like you said that when you're doing stuff that you enjoy, like I think like you said, like your university experience will be very different to what others, whether they're on your course or not, will say about university. Because I look back on both of my because as I mentioned, I wanted to clearly stay at university for so long. Doing both placement years meant that I was almost at Brunel for like 6 years. And I look back on those 6 years. First of all, when I even figured out I was there for almost 6 years, that threw me off, because it was literally like after graduation, I was just looking for jobs. I was still like, I had a job at Brunel that I was working at as a part of a placement, and then that turned into a full-time job. And I literally was just like, wow, I have been, like when I got this new job that I'm currently in, I was like, wow, I've genuinely been at Brunel for like 6 years. And I was just like, if I'd waited until September, I would have been at Brunel for I would have been exactly 6 years to the day.
Wow.
So for me, I look back on my university experience and I was just like, I had a great time. Like, I enjoyed it. I had a good course. Obviously, like, there were tough times, but I enjoyed my course. I met a lot of great people. Like, a lot of them, like, they appear on the podcast. I'm still in touch with a lot of them. So for me, I think it's 100% like what you said. Like, if you're not doing what you enjoy, whether that's both academically, but also I think even like when you're at uni, like getting involved with stuff, being social, getting involved in societies or sports clubs or like evening events or whatever. I think for me at least, you will just come out of university and you'll just be like, either A, it was a waste of time, or B, you'll just like be like, I don't know what I don't like. Even for people who do enjoy it, they do sometimes feel like they don't know what they're doing. But I think you'll be more so like that because you'll just be like, well, like I studied like a topic for 3 years, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. Like I've now graduated. Like I'm now at a point where I can graduate, and I don't know what's happening next. So yeah, I would say just like bear that in mind. University is like, and do something you enjoy. I guess is where I'm getting at with that.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think, you mentioned your travel story, so I should mention mine too. And it sort of links to your assignment thing because, so I don't know if it's still the case. So if you're looking to study environmental science or you're studying it and you see this video, don't quote me. But so for the first year of university for environmental science, we did a joint trip with civil engineering where we went to Weymouth, which I believe is in Dorset. But again, don't quote me on that. But we went there for, I think it was maybe like 5 days, just like stayed in Weymouth and looked at like, basically it was just like looking at fossilization and things like that and like rock formation, which was very cool. Got to stay over a hotel. A lot of funny stories came from that because there was this whole barbecue incident where, a whole barbecue incident. But past that, I think the one that, like, the university... Well, the funny thing is... Oh, sorry, I need to also mention this because people get surprised when I tell them. I did not attend any of Brunel's open days for my course. I think one time the Metropolitan line wasn't working and the other time I booked on and couldn't be bothered to go. But a lot of people on my course said, oh, yeah, there's, like, a trip to Tenerife in, like, the second year. And I was like... I didn't know that. I just applied because I liked the course. So in our second year, we went to Tenerife. There were issues with the hotel, as to be expected. But it was the first time we'd ever gone on as a trip. And my course was the year I joined Brunel was the first year that Brunel had launched my course. So there'd never been a previous year before us. We were the first year of the course. They were like, I think there were about maybe 18 I think there was 18 of us with our lecturers, 2 lecturers in Tenerife, just experiencing a week there. And for me, I think like you said about doing stuff that you like, I liked it because we got to like I'm very passionate about the environment, but we got to like see the environment in a different way. So we got to we went whale and dolphin spotting, which was really cool. We got to go up the volcano which is in the middle of Tenerife. We got to go to a banana plantation, which I'd never, they've got like loads on the whole island. So you just drive past them. But yeah, we actually got to go on one, which was really cool. They have a volcanic, so because of the volcanoes, some of the beaches actually don't have like yellow, like typical beach sand. It's literally like ash. Well, it's ash that's basically now turned into mixed with the sand. So now the sand is all black. So it's like
so cool.
It's really hot though. I wouldn't like it because
it catches the sunlight.
So literally, when you get on it, you're like, wow, this is really cool. And then like literally within like seconds, your feet are just on fire. So you have to like, sort of like pour loads of water on yourself and then just like rush out, find somewhere to sit, put the mat down, sit, and then trying to like run into the ocean. You have to just like do a little sprint so your feet don't burn. But it is really nice. Like, personally, I love the trip. Like, I think, yes, like I said, I probably will eventually do an episode on the experience.
Yeah.
But I think it was really cool was being in another country, but also with that, we had to do a field journal on... funny enough, like it was a written field journal and it was like you had to do, the deadline was essentially the end of the trip. So each day we'd go out, write what we did. In our hotel, we only had Wi-Fi in like the reception area. So there was like all of us in the reception area trying to find papers online that we could like link to what we were doing. And you had to handwrite a field journal of what you've done during the day and discuss some stuff related to it. So for me, it was really interesting because I was just like, this is something we've never did before. The one we did in Weymouth in our first year, like that was one where literally you just did the trip, and then after the trip you had to just write about like the whole experience and all of that stuff. So it wasn't necessarily like a typical field journal, but it was more of like, okay, you've done this now, like tell us what you learned and linked it to some papers. Whereas this was like, okay, like you're in the space, you're essentially on the trip, write up what you did, give it to us on the last day, submit it, and that's it. So for me, I thought it was really good because it was something different, it was fun. Tenerife is a nice place in general, but like it was nice to sort of be there with like an environmental mindset and to think about like, oh, what is Tenerife as a country doing to be environmentally conscious? How does it like manage like the wildlife around it, the wildlife on the island? Tenerife as an island itself has like 2 different climates, which is really interesting, but also kind of weird because you go to the north or the northern parts of the island and it's like very rainforest, it's raining a lot, it's very humid. You go to the southern parts of the island, it's basically like being in the desert, it's warm, it rarely rains, and when it does, it's not like heavy rain. So even like when we went from the south to the north, it was weird because literally our lecturer was just like, yeah, bring a raincoat, wear trousers, wear shoes, don't wear sandals. So you're like sweating when you're in the coach getting to the north. And then by the time you get there, like, and to me, I don't know when it changed because all I just know is I was just chilling, listening to music, just on my phone. I look up and it's just like pouring with rain. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, where was like the just like small bit of change? Yeah. I was just like, like 2 minutes ago, it's just like really sunny. Next minute, I'll know it's like being in London. But yeah, it was really cool to sort of see this like different climates. And as a trip as a whole, it was really good. So yeah, I think the like assumption and reality, and I guess the piece of advice would be go in that open mind with your course, because I think a lot of people think all your assignments will be the same. It'll be typical, like, oh, I'm going to have to like write up an essay or do stuff like that. But especially for, actually, to be honest, with both of my undergrad and masters, like I did a variety of stuff. I did obviously I do the podcast, so I love video editing. So I got to do video, I had got to create videos and like educational videos on like environmental issues. I got to do like business, like practice business pitches. I got to, what else did I do? Did like the typical like group presentations. I got to do lab work. So I'd say like go with, like when you're doing a course, like just go with that open mind because there's like such a wide variety of assignments you can do. And I know there was like I said, I love video editing and like doing all of this stuff, adding cool transitions. So when I had stuff like that, I was like, cool, that's my zone. I'm in. I've said it from the start. I've said it. I'll keep saying it. Lab work, I dislike. Because you never know even when it all looks like you've measured everything right, it can still go awfully wrong. And then you're expected to write up a report about, tell us how things went. And to me, that was the worst thing.
I could never.
Literally, both my dissertations were always desk-based for that reason. Because I was just like, yeah, I could literally just try and do an experiment. And I know people that both for dissertations and PhDs and like in general did lab work. And things just didn't work. And it was like, I literally like did everything crossed all the dots, did all of this. And it was just like, yeah, it didn't work out. And they were just like, oh yeah, right about like why it didn't work out. That's still really good. I was just like, yeah, it's good, but like sort of it's not the best thing to say. Yeah,
I imagine that's quite disheartening.
Yes, for a lot of my friends, I know like because even like with my course, I guess linking it to like the different assignments for second year, they did. I don't know if they still do it, but they did this thing where they were just like, we're going to do like a mini dissertation project. So. You can do something like whatever you're doing, you could do for your dissertation, but it's like a chance for you to like test out the waters and figure out how like a dissertation works and stuff. Again, like I said, I knew I wasn't going to do lab work. So I just did a desk-based one, which ended up actually being what I did for my dissertation. But I know for some people they did lab and they were just like, yeah, the experiment didn't work. I did exactly what the lecturer said. I did exactly what it went out. It did not come out like the way they expected. And they were just like, the lecturer was just like, oh, like, just still write about it. Just, what did you learn? Yeah. And they were just like, but I don't know what I learned because it didn't work. And I was just like, yeah, that's why you got to work with data. Because data can't get you, well, it can get you wrong sometimes. Yeah. But like for the most part, you've got more control than like a lab experiment where you're just like, I want to see what this reaction will look like. So yeah. I'm not dissing. Like, if you do lab work, this isn't me dissing you, but this is me saying, like, I know I could never. Yeah.
But I also think that, like, when things don't go to plan, that's not necessarily like, although it's very disheartening, like if you set out this entire plan and you've thought out everything and you've done everything right and it still doesn't work out, there is so much, like if you lean into the critical evaluation, you can still do very, very, very well. Like I've got one friend who just did her master's in engineering and she all of her tests basically failed. Like they but she leaned into that, wrote a really, really good dissertation and ended up getting a first. So I guess, yeah, sometimes when things don't go to plan, they're not necessarily a bad thing. Which I guess kind of linked into something else that I wanted to draw upon. I think with university, it's like, for a lot of people, it feels a bit like a rat race. It's like people are like, okay, yeah, I need to go in and I need to get my degree in 3 years and then I need to go and land my amazing job and then and then that's it. I'm going to get married and have kids. And it's like, hold on a second, take a deep breath. Like life is not supposed to be lived like that. And I remember talking with some of my course mates about whether I should actually do a placement year in anthropology. And a lot of my course mates were saying, no, I just want to finish this degree and get out as soon as I can. And that made me a bit anxious because I took 2 years from when I completed my A-levels, kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. I just had a retail job. I shouldn't say just, because all experiences are very valuable and good. I had a retail job. And I was just saving a bunch of money and I went to a bunch of different countries. I was enjoying my time and whatever. And this is what led me to anthropology. But when it came to adding another year onto my undergrad, this would mean I would graduate at 24. And seeing all my other course mates who were rushing to graduate at 21, it made me feel a bit insecure. I was thinking, like, am I doing something wrong? Like, am I not, is there something wrong with me? Like you get all these like existential thoughts when you don't like move in the same path as what everyone else is taking. But I'm really glad that I didn't listen to those thoughts. I'm really glad that I did do that extra year because my experience in Mexico was phenomenal. And I would do it again. Like it's that thing. It's like, seizing those opportunities rather than kind of feeling like you have to just complete your degree as fast. Like if there's a placement year or a placement option, take it. I've got one course mate who did a placement year in anthropology as well, but she did more of an industry one. I was gallivanting around Mexico, but she got a really good placement job at Bosch. And like her year working at Bosch helped her to get a really good job when she graduated her undergrad. And it's, there is no rush, like I'm 25 now and I've just finished my master's and I do have plans of doing a PhD, but again, there's no rush. I remember saying to myself, like when I just started my undergrad, like, I'm going to do this. And then as soon as I finish my undergrad, I'm going to go straight into a PhD and I'm going to have my PhD once I'm 30. And now, I've really leaned into the kind of like the beauty of seizing opportunities, going at a more slower pace. Yeah, I've now, like you've done 6 years at uni, I've done 5. Like, I'm happy that I didn't just do 3. You know what I mean? Like I'm happy that I had that placement year, and I'm happy that I took my time before I jumped into studying. Because I actually did something that has my whole heart. So yeah. Yeah.
No,
I don't know.
No, I like that because I think
I went on lots of different tangents.
But I think that's really good because like I am a big advocate when it comes to placement. partly, well, I wouldn't say it was partly, but because I did too. But I think for me, when it came to the placements, now I tell everyone, and people find it funny when I tell them this is part of the reason why I did a placement, especially for my undergraduate, was because I never lived on campus. So my first year, I didn't really get involved in a lot of stuff because I was like, my course was very small. Again, a lot of the people on my course didn't live on campus. So you didn't even have like the people on my course to like be like, oh, cool, like I can just chill with you and your friends and they'll introduce and like grow your network from that. So my first year of uni, I didn't necessarily get involved with a lot. And it came to my second year and I was just like, actually, like what you were saying, I was just like, everyone else is just like, yeah, I just want to like get out. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I feel like the last year of uni was a bit of a waste because I was like, oh yeah, it's my first year. Yeah, you're a bit nervous. But I was like, no, I want to get involved in a bit more. So my second year, started to do a bit more. It was doing a bit more. And then it came to the point where you had to say like whether you wanted to do a placement or not. And I was just like, yeah, I want to do a placement year. And one of the reasons why for both my undergrad and my master's, I particularly picked one at Brunel was specifically because I was just like, I want to leave Brunel coming out and saying, actually, I had a really great time. I took I maximized my opportunities and I feel like actually staying here was worth it. So for me, when it came to my placement year, I was just like, yeah, it's got to be, well, one, I was like, it's got to be good placement, but I was just like, also, I have to like get involved more. Obviously, like COVID hit, so it sort of like impacted those plans a bit. But when it came to my, like I tell everyone, my placement, my first placement from my undergrad, well, both my summer one, but more specifically the year-long one I did, because I could say madman, but like a really enthusiastic person, I did a summer one and then like had a weekend and went straight into to my year-long one. So I've joked with my parents that like technically I haven't actually had both more so a professional break, because from secondary school, I've gone straight into like all this and then job. So no break, but it's the grind. With that, so with my placement, I tell everyone that I loved my placement because my manager was very supportive. Like we're still in touch today. She's still like, my big motivator, things at Brunel, like things to do at Brunel. If I needed stuff sorted out, if I wasn't sure of like things, she would be my go-to person, and she is an amazing individual. She has supported me. Like my family have joked, she was basically like my Brunel mum. But yeah, she was amazing, and I've always said that I'm grateful for that because my placement year was where, like I've mentioned before, a lot of the people on the team, a lot of people that have done podcast episodes, I met through my placement. A lot of the people that I'm still like friends with to this day, or we speak regularly, I met through that placement. Even the opportunities I got, like I've done now. So like whether it's speaking at my graduation or working with like different organizations or like building up this to where it is today, came from like getting involved with stuff at Brunel. So yeah, as you mentioned, like when it came to my masters, I was just like, again, that first year of my masters, I didn't really get involved in societies. Again, mainly because like we were still in that loved tier systems of lockdown. So it was just like, yeah, I could come in occasionally. And then I think it got to a point where they were literally just like, yeah, no, you can't come into Brunel. And I was like, well, this isn't great. And when things did ease up, I was just like, wow, I'm literally like at a point where, actually, no, sorry. When I knew from the get-go I was going to do a placement because I was just like, yeah, this doesn't seem great. And I picked Brunel specifically because the difference with, I forgot to mention before, with the master's one is you can do like a full-time job as a master's, as a placement, rather than just like a placement in an organization, because you've technically finished all your academic work. The only thing you've got left with your degree is your placement report, which again, you're not being taught in your placement year. You can just like chill and enjoy life. So for me, when it came to like the placement year, I was again like, I have to do it at Brunel because I've enjoyed my time at Brunel, but I was just like, there's a lot that I want to get out in this because I was just like, after this, I want to look like, after this placement, I was like, even if this job continues on after like the placement period's ended, I was like, I want to move out of Brunel because I was just like, I've been there a long time, I've enjoyed it, it's been great. But yeah, I guess that long whole tangent was basically, I was just like I said, I look back on it and I'm just like, yeah, almost there for 6 years, which to me seems like even when I say it now, I'm just like, that seems crazy. Because it didn't feel like 6 years. And it's only when like it was coming to graduation and I was just like, yeah, damn. I remember 2017 rocking up to the IAC, the Indoor Athletic Center, and just like going to Freshers Fair and like registering. And I was just like, wow, 2017. 2017. And I was just like, wow, that was a long time. It feels like it wasn't that long. But I look back on it, I'm just like, yeah. Like if you told 2017 me about where I'd get by the time I officially like left Brunel, and yeah, I may go back to do well. I think my parents and my old manager and a few of my lecturers are convinced I will be back to do a PhD. I'm not in no particular rush. I have said my master's kicked me, and I realised I need a bit of a break from education.
Same with me. Yeah. Same thing.
But literally, I look back on it and I'm just like. Yeah, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed my time, and I don't regret that I did a year-long one for both. And now I look back on it, and I'm just like, I built up a connection, both that can, I guess, on a personal, professional level, like benefit myself. But I've built up something that even like I have friends who are like at Brunel who, you know, just joined and things like that. And I'm just like, oh, if you need help with anything, like I know these people that you should get in touch with. If you're looking for jobs, if you're looking for this. And now I'm at a point where I can even help them because of all this stuff of like getting involved with all these in all these opportunities.